Microaggressions: verbal, nonverbal, and environmental slights, snubs, or insults, whether intentional or unintentional, which communicate derogatory or negative messages that target persons based solely upon their marginalized group. In Dane County, where explicit racism, like segregation and racial slurs, have decreased, these microaggressions are the new form of racial discrimination. Microaggressions have always existed, but they are on the rise.
Microaggressions can be equally devastating to the targeted individuals as are explicit forms of racism. Although they may come out as small comments, microaggressions represent greater racial tensions in people's minds. They manifest the small biases all of us have. The problem is that sometimes people are not able to recognize them as they themselves are saying a microaggression and they themselves have these biases. This is what makes microaggressions so dangerous. They are the new face of racism.
Microaggressions seem to be innocent and insignificant, often making them overlooked. Affected individuals are left feeling confused, weird, or irritated.
I once heard this quote that was like, I never felt different until somebody else pointed it out. I think that applies to this situation. Like, I never really realized how brown I was compared to the community around me until people started calling me like exotic or asking if I was Indian or if I was like any other race, and made me feel just weird, I guess, because exotic's kind of a word for a bird, not for a human.
I felt kind of angry just because I'm black doesn't mean I have to steal.
I was mostly irritated because I didn't really realize that the way I speak was determined by my race or my background.
I felt like I had to change myself to please others.
Initially, I didn't really think about it that much, but I kind of realized it was said with like a negative connotation. So it kind of made me think about like, why do people view acting black as a negative thing, I guess? And also like, it just made me think about why would you say that all black people act the same? Because that's not really true, so.
It made me feel ostracized because as a student and a citizen who lives in America, it makes you think that you're just an American and you don't go up to any other Caucasian person and ask them, where are you originally from? It just makes you feel like you're not even a citizen of this country.
I felt irritated because people shouldn't discredit me just because I'm African American and affirmative action exists.
I kind of felt like she was saying like I wasn't smart enough to become a lawyer. I ignored what she said and I just focused on my goals.
Victims question whether what they are hearing is actually a microaggression or if they are just overreacting. If they do address these microaggressions, some fear that they will only spark more negative backlash from responses such as, you're overreacting, quit whining, or stop being too sensitive. As a result, many victims ignore the comments. The lack of conversation only adds to the prevalence of microaggressions today.
I definitely ignored it. I didn't really think much about it.
Why?
Because I didn't want to be, I guess, one of those kids that took things too seriously, I guess. I didn't think it was really going to mean anything, but then I thought about if it was said to somebody else who really was interested in like singing and doing this for college, that might have really hurt their feelings, so.
It definitely felt really weird. I was kind of confused that a teacher would say that. I definitely ignored it because, I don't know, I'm a shy person and this happened during freshman year, so like I didn't really know anybody, and I felt like if I said something, it would just be blown out of proportion, and I didn't want to be a problem for anybody.
I felt ashamed when people tell me this because I work really hard, and just because I'm a little Asian doesn't mean that that's why I get good grades. In the moment, I ignored it, and I feel like I shouldn't have, but I ignored it because I felt like there was no way I could fight back and say anything.
It was easier to ignore it because I just expected that I'm not supposed to really care about it, or other people are expecting me not to care about it. But, you know, once you hear it too many times, it's just old.
To stop microaggressions and their negative effects, we need to work together. The first step is to educate ourselves and others about what they are, because this will ultimately diminish their presence. Meanwhile, reducing the discomfort that students unnecessarily experience. In our Middleton High School community, we have staff and students supporting this effort to create a safe community environment for everyone.
About a year ago when I was in the student section, I heard somebody behind me say that one of the players wouldn't be able to dunk because he wasn't black. I kind of ignored it because I just didn't want to I just didn't really want to say anything, but now I feel like that I know more about microaggressions and how they affect people, I probably would have said something.
So my team was at Follett, and before our games we watched JV, and JV was warming up to some music, and we looked over in the bleachers and we saw 4 African American students getting down to some music, and my team was like, oh, they're such good dancers, we wish we could dance that good, and but we can't because we're too white to dance that good. Looking back, I didn't really think anything of it, but after I learned what microaggressions are, I realized that that is one. We weren't accrediting them as being good dancers because they were good dancers. We were accrediting them for being good dancers because of their race. So we just put a divide that if you're African American, you're automatically good at dancing, and if you're white, then you're not.
I overheard some players calling black football players fake black just because they weren't good at football. Kind of confused and shocked because I didn't really know what it meant to be fake black. I didn't know that was a thing. I ignored it because it just seemed so stupid at the time, the person's part, so I do wish I would have said something.
And we have power to stand up for ourselves and stop microaggressions.
We were talking about issues and stuff in the world, politics, and then I brought up Black Lives Matter. He was like, well, if Black Lives Matter so much, why are they killing each other over color? He said, you guys. I was like, well, that's not the whole black community. And that's some people that's stereotypes. Not all black people are in gangs and thugs and whatever. And some black people are intelligent and not dumb. So don't just put one whole community in one whole group.
Well, at that moment, we were running down the backs, and I finished that, and then I came back and asked him, what did you say? And then he repeated that, and I told him not to say that because that was kind of racist.
I feel that people just assume that I can't swim because I'm African American, but that's not true. I addressed it, and I was like, why do you think that I can't swim? Why can't I do what you can do?
I felt like an outcast, I felt marginalized, and I felt disrespected. I addressed it, and I addressed it in a way to educate her about how culturally insensitive that statement was and how that could affect someone like myself. It affects me, it makes it the learning environment not okay for me to be in.
These featured high school students were affected by microaggressions that were said by their classmates and teachers during their time at Middleton High School. By recognizing what microaggressions are and the underlying effects that they have on marginalized individuals, you are a part of the solution to end the new face of racism. Walk with us, side by side, as we stand together to end racism.